Again, without leaving a window to say anything in response, Rhonda darted off deeper into the kitchen. Cove stared at her as she went. His expression was deadpan. You can pick the plates. Thank you. Yes. Alright, I'll handle it. Wait, does it look like I want to pick out the plates? You nodded casually. You shook your head casually. I'll be like, what, does it look like I want to pick out plates? An abrupt clattering came from the direction she disappeared down, and a moment later your caterer had reappeared. She kept her word and had piles of plates balanced in each other of her hands. She stepped up to clear counter space. Rhonda spoke cheerily, almost musically, while laying out the first set of plates and some forks to go with them. Perhaps so you knew for sure what they'd look like together. Here's the white. Yeah, it's plain and standard. It's classic. The two of you looked silently at the collection of completely plain white dinner plates. And there's the swirl. As promised, the white plates she put down did have some swirls on them. That was as much as she could be noted on that. Now what are you thinking? I think the plain white is good. I like the swirly one. You gave Cove pleading eyes, wanting him to answer instead. Either is fine. Honestly, I couldn't care less. They're both white plates. No, I like the swirly ones. Got it. Thanks for humoring me. And because you're getting both the hot and cold appetizer courses, there's an extra piece to this puzzle. Now what we could do is just bring them out ahead of the meal and place them in front of each guest in their seat, but that's not our only option. We could have all the appetizers set on a single table from the very start of the reception so guests can go over and eat as they please. Oh, eat as they please, buffet style. Or you could even have servers walk around the room with platters of appetizers to offer guests at the party as they mingle. It makes sense to me to serve them on the table before the entree. I would enjoy having servers walking around the party. I think it'd be best to leave them out. You didn't have anything to say on the matter. That's up to Cove. I enjoy having servers walking around the party. Wow, our wedding is going to be elegant. Cove chuckled, but he backed your suggestion wholeheartedly. The image of the reception was really starting to take shape in your imagination. Righto, that's what we'll do. Thank you. And now you can breathe. We're done. That was fun. That actually was more thorough than I expected it to be. That was fun. I would have loved to have been able to pick out specific dishes, but I get the way that we can sort of headcanon whatever food we want in this catering job is to not get too specific on the details. 100% understand. Rhonda laughed happily as she closed her notepad and put it aside. Okay, cool. I'm glad we had worked that out. Thank you very much, Rhonda. Thanks so much. It was my pleasure. We're looking forward to knocking your socks off. I kind of wish there was a sprite for Rhonda. I kind of wish they showed what Rhonda looked like, but it's okay. It'll be a 6-course double menu, mild meal that your guests will be talking about for years to come. I promise. I don't like the fact that it's a mild meal. There's nothing mild about this meal that I made. Neat. One last quick question. Sure thing. How do we get out of here again? Rhonda clapped her hands and let out a deep laugh. Cove's face reddened with embarrassment. Go down the hall and take a left to another hall. Then a right, and then you'll find the exit. It was so nice meeting you two. Thanks. Again. After that, you and Cove left the kitchen and made it out of the building in one piece, following Rhonda's instructions. You both returned to the car with a vigor in your strides. It was amazing to get such a nice meal arranged in exactly the way that you both wanted it to be. The food was definitely something that you were going to be daydreaming about from now until the big day. When you arrived at the office again, Baxter was already comfortably seated and scanning over his notebook. He glanced up from it at the sound of the door opening.
Hello.
Welcome back. What's on the menu? Baxter smirked, but Cove answered with complete earnest. A lot of things. Delicious. What shall we be doing today? Let's design a cake now, Cove. Baxter nodded his head, confirming that he'd registered your choice. Beside you, Cove's excitement had bubbled over. He was bouncing in his seat, too eager to restrain himself.
Yeah.
Good idea, Hark. I'm definitely ready to plan treats. His open enthusiasm tickled you, eliciting an adoring chuckle that slipped out. Across the table, Baxter joined you with a soft laugh of his own. So for us, I thought was really cool was we had basically a cupcake display, like layered, tiered cupcake display of like 3 or 4 different types of cupcakes. I actually had a friend of mine who has like a home baking like cupcake business, and we basically hired her. We hired her to make the cupcakes for our wedding, which I was so like ecstatic about. And we had like 4 different flavors, like Irish cream and like chocolate mocha, chocolate Kahlua cupcakes and Irish cream cupcakes. Like, as I said, like we did some boozy things. Colin's side of his friends love them things boozy, so we did that. And then at the very top tier was a smaller wedding cake that was meant to be what we actually cut when we did the cake feeding ceremony. That's what it was. And then my friend actually made these amazing cake toppers that had me and Colin in fondant, a fondant heart and Colin on top, which was super cute. I'm wondering if we were gonna have an option for cupcakes in this one as well. We'll see. It's been more of a thing in the last decade, like having a cupcake tower instead of like a traditional wedding cake. So I'm curious. Meanwhile, Cove seemed oblivious to your amusement. You figured he was too lost in imagining delicious cakes to notice what was happening around him. What you needed now was for someone to turn to those dreams into reality. The agency had worked with suppliers of all kinds, so Baxter had a list of bakeries that they'd recommend for weddings. You and Cove had a few personal favorites too. Together, you reviewed the websites for all potential bakeries. Baxter had a wealth of handy tips on what to keep in mind when it came specifically to commissioning wedding cakes for you to take into consideration. The 3 of you whittled away the options until you finally settled on the one you wanted. With that decided, Baxter contacted them to arrange a meeting so you could select the flavors and discuss design ideas before working out the practicalities. He easily secured a time that worked perfectly for both you and Cove. That brought you to the end of the meeting. The decision of which bakery to choose, the scheduling, briefing them on your basic requirements had taken up all the remaining time you had with Baxter for today. The 3 of you rose from your seats, one after the other.
Goodbye for today.
It's been great to see you. Yeah, I can't believe next time we see you we'll have our wedding cake picked out. Right, if everything goes to plan. Of course, I'm sure you'll have a great time together. I look forward to hearing what you decide on. Though I won't be there in person, you can always text me if you want advice during the process. Thank you. We'll manage. I'm not sure I trust your taste. Why would I say that after the amazing job Baxter's been doing? I appreciate that. I'm pretty sure Cove's going to be on top of this. You joke. You're not alone. I appreciate that. It was reassuring to know that Baxter would be able to guide you if you got stuck, though you doubted that would happen. It's not going to happen. I have strong opinions when it comes to food. Mm-hmm. He waved goodbye as you and Cove left the office for the day. The light tinkling of a bell over the door announced your arrival as you and Cove stepped inside, where you were immediately welcomed by a pleasant waft of sweet scents. The bakery was a delight for the senses, even before you'd taken a single bite. Decked out in a pretty shade of pink, it was impossible to miss. Cove closed his eyes and inhaled deeply. There was a soft air of cakes and pastries baking in the oven, tinged with warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. The display case was full of the daily selection of mouth-watering delicacies, neatly lined up and ready to be taken away. The selection ranged from intricate specialty cakes to more rustic, homey brownies and cupcakes. Usually those kind of treats would be everything you needed, but today was a special visit. You were entirely focused on the even better desserts waiting for you on the horizon. You could tell Cove shared your feelings. He waited beside you with every outward appearance of patience, but you could tell his anticipation by the way he kept a close watch on the kitchen door as he waited for an employee to come greet you. This uncharacteristic restraint was a stark contrast to any other time he's visited a bakery, where he'd have rushed over to the display case and immediately began picking out cakes to take home. As he shifted from one foot to the other, you knew that he was fighting to hold back those usual urges. Luckily, his self-control wasn't tested for long. Soon the door to the kitchen swung open and a friendly-looking face emerged. Spotting you and Cove, the person smiled and began heading over. As they approached, you saw that the name on their tag said Xavier, with a little purple button pinned on one strap of their apron and the words "They, Them" printed in black letters. Xavier walked right up to you and gave you a welcome so warm you could have sworn it had come fresh from the oven. I like that. Hello, thanks for coming by, Zake. Is there anything I can get for you? Hi, Cove paused, pointing first at himself and then at you as he spoke. We're Cove and Hark. We've got an appointment here. His voice, which had started up measured and even, became hushed as the thrill of what you were here to do started to get to Cove. When he resumed speaking, it broke further still, devolving into a rushed whisper that Xavier needed to lean in to catch. It's to plan our wedding cake? We're getting married. What he said. We're so glad to be here. Thank you for making time for us. Cove would sulk for days if we skipped out on this part. You nodded with a polite greeting of your own. Thank you for making time for us. Xavier's eyes lit up at the introduction. Of course! Welcome, Hark and Cove, our two grooms! Cove preened ever so slightly at those last words, his chin jutting out with confidence. I'm Xavier, the head cake artist here. We're so happy to be working with you for such an important event. You can take some seats right there in front and we can start talking options. They gestured to a nearby table. You and Cove obliged, taking your seats. As you sat down, your stomach somersaulted. You were really here to pick out a wedding cake, the cake that would be served at your wedding. It hadn't quite sunk in before, but being invited to begin made it feel more official. But knowing that you weren't alone in feeling that way comforted you, and you grinned at the love of your life. Cove beamed back at you. The baker had taken a detour over to the back shelf where they picked up a binder before coming to stand before you at the table. I went over the info baking assist took when the appointment was arranged, so we can dive right into things. So let's get to it. Starting with the size of the cake. How big do you want to go? We can go as big as 5 tiers high.
Maybe.
2 or 3 maybe? Cove tilted his eyes to the side as he looked to you for input. Would just 1 be alright? I don't want to overdo it. 2 sounds perfect. 3 would be wonderful. Would 4 be okay instead? If they can do 5, let's do 5. Doggone it. Why limit ourselves, Cove? Why limit ourselves? It's our day. Cove's mouth fell open as he stared at you. The corner of his mouth began to curve upwards as he gradually recovered from the shock. If you're gonna be marrying me, you're gonna have to... If you're gonna be married to me, you're gonna get used to this. You know? YOLO, basically. YOLO when it comes to celebrating, when it comes to parties, I'm very much a YOLO. Seriously? You nodded, you expressed a do you know who you're marrying? Do you know who your husband is? This should not come to a shock to you, Cove. Of course. Cove retrieved his jaw and put it on his best lopsided smile. Okay, we'll get a 5-tier cake. Seeing as you reached conclusion, Xavier noted it down in the binder. A 5-tier cake it is. They glanced up from the binder, smiling. That will give us a lot to work with. In terms of decorating, is there any kind of direction you'd want us to aim for in the overall style? Maybe something whimsical? I like something whimsical. Cove pursed his lips, stumped by the question. Artistic vision had never been his strong suit. It's okay, Cove, I got this. Though you'd reviewed ideas for decorations and color schemes together, asking Cove to distill those visions and themes to words was doomed to failure. You took it from there and said, traditional, modern, elegant, unusual, trendy, rustic, floral, beachy, simplistic. Whatever you think is best is good with us. I want something that's whimsical, so I feel like unusual. Simplistic, no. Beachy, I know Cove would appreciate it. Not my thing. Floral, not my thing. I don't think it's Cove's thing. Rustic, no. Traditional, definitely not. Definitely not. Modern, elegant, yeah. Trendy, I'm gonna say unusual. Cove sighed, relieved, and expressed his approval.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. I want my cake to stand out. I want people to remember the cake. So let's make it as unusual, as ostentatious as possible. We can work with that for sure. Any color ranges in mind? Again, Cove fell silent like a kid hoping not to be called on in the classroom. Even though it was just 3 of you and he had no choice of hiding, you could swear that he was shrinking lower in his seat as if hoping to go unnoticed. Okay, Cove. Cove doesn't seem to have much of an opinion on the presentation of the cake. I'm assuming he's more interested in the flavors. That's my guess. As entertaining as it was, you decided to spare Cove before he slipped under the table. You spoke up and said, classic white, pastel, I like pastel. Earth shades, I like those. Muted tones, dark shades, bright tones. Mostly white with color pops. Rainbow. I don't want to go all rainbow on the cake, but maybe like bright tones. I would say bright tones. Got it. And what's one color you really want me to keep on the top of my mind? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, black, brown, gray, tan, gold, silver, bronze. Let's go gold. I want a golden cake. Nice, nice, I'm getting you. Xavier looked up from the binder. Right, so we're going for a 5-tier gold cake. That's unusual. I can't wait to see it. I hope we get to see it. You can picture the cake clearly now. It's just what you wanted. Yeah, that's right. Cove, who was staring at you like you'd saved him from a life or death situation rather than answering a couple of simple questions in a pleasant bakery, gave you a thumbs up. Xavier watched you both with a smile. This cake is really shaping up. Time for the fun part. I'll be right back. Is this the flavors? They got up and made their way into the kitchen. The fun part? Cove, oh, it's probably the tasting. The tasting. That's the fun part. Cove echoed the words, puzzled but intrigued. He peered after Xavier, trying to catch a glimpse of the magic happening behind the closed doors. Craning his neck didn't grant Cove X-ray vision, but that was just fine, as you weren't kept in suspense for long. Xavier returned with a large covered serving tray. Cove gasped, his fingers curling with anticipation. Careful, coming through. They lowered a heavy platter onto the table where it clattered against the hard surfaces as it settled. Oh my. Xavier lifted the cover to reveal several plates of little cake slices with mounds of different frosting and filling flavors. Well, I mean, we've got 5 tiers, so why not 5 flavored cakes, 5 different flavored cakes, and 5 different flavored frostings? Why not? It's our wedding! The beautiful array of colors and breadth of the selection made for a wonderfully presented array of treats. Cove gaped, wowed by the revelation. Oh, we get to try samples? I'm actually surprised we didn't get to try samples during the catering thing, because that's also huge and fun, like having samples of the catering. Xavier giggled at Cove's reaction. Given just how much enthusiasm Cove had, you bet there weren't many previous grooms whose response could compare. You do. They pointed at the tray and began talking you through the selection, starting with the neat little slices of cake. So we've got a few cake flavors for you today. Vanilla, chocolate, red velvet, citrus, and such. I'm going for the citrus. I feel like I would love a citrus. They moved over to the frosting and fillings. There's vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, maple, and mocha buttercream. Over here we got a chocolatey and fruity fillings, though the inside can simply contain more frosting if you'd prefer. Having talked you through the samples, they straightened up. These are some of our most popular options, but not everything. You can see all our options on the order forms. As they talked, they took out 2 copies of the order sheet and presented you with each. All the possibilities for each element of the cake were laid out before you. That's everything. You're welcome to eat whatever parts look appealing, or you can have everything on the platter if you got the stomach for it. I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm gonna eat everything on this platter. Cove's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Knowing Cove, you suspected that he intended to take Xavier up on the offer to sample everything. He picked up the fork provided and began systematically working through the platter. He took scoops out of the cake, frosting, and filling options in turn, moving from left to right and from top to bottom. You chuckled softly, amused that your hunch had been correct. Though Cove was evidently intent on eating a bit of everything, you noticed that he was careful to leave at least half of each sample, in case you wanted it too. You started trying everything as well. You only wanted to try the ones which looked most appealing. You only wanted to do one small tasting. You didn't eat any of it. I'm eating everything. It all looked delicious. Picking up a fork, you joined Cove in sampling the cakes, frosting, and fillings on offer. You murmured your delight to each other as you discovered new combinations and enjoyed the sheer variety laid out before you. Cove's eyes shone as he looked at you, glad to be sharing the experience. You were so enraptured that you nearly forgot that you weren't alone with Cove, but this too was by design. The baker stood by approvingly, careful not to do anything that might interrupt your enjoyment. You held up your fork to feed a piece to Cove. You gestured to Cove that you wanted to eat the sample on his fork. You cozied up next to him. You seized the last bit of cake before Cove could get it. You relaxed in the moment, enjoying the experience together. You held up your fork to feed a piece to Cove. Cove spotted the poised fork in front of him, laden with cake. You knew your intentions had been understood as a blush spread over his cheeks. Even now, it was criminally easy to make him embarrassed. Still, he leaned in and opened his mouth to accept the offering. You brought the fork to his lips, and he happily ate the treat. Thanks, Hark. He held up his own fork where the bite he'd been about to take was waiting. For you. You leaned in to be fed. Cove's eyes glittered, happy to reciprocate. You bit down around his fork. The cake seemed sweeter when it was being fed to you like this. Cove shimmied happily in his seat. The different varieties had gone down very well with him. They're all so good. He cracked a grin. Hey, could we get a tier for every flavor? See, now, Cove, we're on the same wavelength here. Cove, we know. Yeah, he knows what's what. Xavier laughed. Unfortunately, we can't. What? What kind of a bakery is here? You can have multiple tiers. You should be able to have multiple flavors. At least not in a single cake. And I'm guessing you don't want several different cakes for your wedding. Yeah, we should just go with one. Boo! I have no idea how we're gonna choose so many great choices. We're definitely ready to get our own cake after having the samples. It's okay, Cove. We can always get cakes for our anniversaries in the future. You shook your head at Cove's antics. You nodded in agreement. It's okay, Cove. We can always get cakes for our anniversaries in the future. I don't know. I would have been like, excuse me? Note, you have tiered cakes and you can't have a different flavor for each tier. Come on now. It would be nice to taste the experience over again, year after year, especially if you could continue to get cakes from the same bakery that had provided your wedding cake. The suggestion made him swoon for you. The promise of food and staying together was a perfect hit. Now that you and Cove were experts in the bakery's cakes, it was time to figure out the details. We can do the cake all in one flavor, top to bottom, or that you choose 2 sets of different flavors. What works for you? I think one flavor for the entire cake makes the most sense. No! Variety is the spice of life. Having different flavors for the tiers sounds fun. Yeah, let's do that. Cove lifted himself up off the chair briefly to switch his position. He moved over from leaning forwards towards the tray and shifted to be situated in the side of the chair facing you. So, what's your thoughts? You don't need to stick to it forever, but were you thinking something kind of plain, chocolatey, fruity, or what? You picked up the copy of the form to review the options again. After studying carefully, you said, simple and vanilla. I like vanilla, but I'm not simple, and neither should our cake. Chocolatey. I like chocolate, but I have to admit, I don't like chocolate as much as the average person does. I actually feel like I like chocolate less than the average person. Fruity. I love fruity desserts. I love like fruit tarts. I like citrusy cake. I like fruit, ice cream, like sherbets. I love those. Something that people probably haven't had before, but it's still good. I just don't know. Something that people probably haven't had before, but it's still good. I think that's me. I like expanding people's horizons when it comes to food, expanding their palates. Otherwise, I would have gone with fruity. Something that people probably haven't had before, but is still good. Okay. He rested his chin in his hand and he stared thoughtfully into the distance. A smile drifted across his face as he pictured the possibilities for your cake. Maybe a citrus cake with coconut buttercream and then a white chocolate mousse on the inside. I'm so proud of you, Cove! That's actually really good! That's like a foodie idea of a flavor. I wanted a citrusy cake anyway. That sounds wonderful. Let's go with that for one of the sets. That's really nice. Can we tweak a part of it? No, I think it's perfect. That's an option, but can I tell you my idea too? That sounds wonderful. Let's go with that for one of the sets. Cove straightened up at your words of approval, amazed that his idea had been helpful. The baker jotted it down. I'm good with that. How about the rest? Thinking about the type of cake you wanted, he decided to suggest white vanilla cake? Meh. Chocolate cake? Meh. Pretty normal. Vanilla chocolate marble cake? I do like marble cake. It looks really pretty. Flavor-wise, it's just okay. It looks pretty. Flavor-wise, it's just okay. Red velvet. Now here's what we're talking about. Not only is the color awesome, the flavor I like a lot too. Spice cake. I do love spice cake. Ube cake. Ube. This might be the winner because I'm Filipino, and us Filipinos, we are like the king of ube. Ubes, I'm very excited to hear that ube has become more and more mainstream, the way taro has come more mainstream. For those of you who don't know what ube is, it is essentially a purple yam. It is a purple yam. So it's kind of like our version, Filipino version of a sweet potato, but it's got a very awesome purple color, a deep purple color. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's as sweet as at least the sweet potatoes that you would find in America. I would say that it is a cross, in my opinion, it's the perfect cross between a sweet potato and taro, for those of you who've had taro before. So, carrot cake, almond cake, mango cake, that's another Filipino twist. I love mango cake. Coconut cake, I love how there's a lot of Filipino Pacific Islander flavors here. Lemon cake, I love me some Mellet Lake. Matcha cake, I love matcha cake. Citrus cake. Well, we already have a citrus cake, which is what Coves wanted, so I'm gonna do an ube cake. For the frosting, you like the idea of... I do love peanut butter, but with ube, I'm thinking more cream cheese. We're already doing white chocolate for Cove's flavor. So ube and matcha would be really good together. Lemon, orange, ube, strawberry, hazelnut, almond, coconut, maple. Maple and ube would also be amazing. But I think I'm gonna go all Asian and say ube with a matcha frosting. That's gonna be very unique. When it came to the inside filling, you proposed more of the buttercream in the same flavor. More buttercream in a different flavor. So the thing is, I don't really like buttercream. I like butter. But buttercream, it just... the flavor of buttercream is just not... it just isn't pleasant to me. I think part of it's because as a kid, I grew up and every single party I went to had nothing but buttercream frosting, and it was just... no. I like butter, but apparently not in my frosting. Mousse is very good. A ganache, chocolate ganache, custard. Now we're talking. I love me some custard. Whipped cream, okay, preserves, fresh fruits or berries. Yeah, that's good. I think with an ube, I would go custard. That was milk chocolate flavored. That was white chocolate flavored. That was dark chocolate flavored. That was vanilla flavored. Yeah, I mean, for this, I'm just gonna say, yeah, I mean, chocolate and ube can go well together, but I think it's better for me to just do vanilla flavored. Cove, who had been nodding along with their sessions, recapped the idea. So you're thinking of an ube cake, an ube Cove, it's okay, with matcha frosting and vanilla flavored custard on the inside. Be better if we had like cream cheese flavored frosting. White chocolate, I mean, yeah, let's go white chocolate. I mean, I know we already have white chocolate frosting, but this is white chocolate custard. White chocolate custard. Matcha frosting and with white chocolate flavored custard on the inside. That's right.
Sounds good.
It sounds really good to me. Then your mouth-watering cake flavors are all set. You were sure it was going to be a hit at the wedding. The inside of the cake is great. All that's left now is the cover. How would you wrap your baby up? Do you like fondant or maybe ganache? Cove shrugged. You said, just buttercream. Ew. No. Buttercream covered in fondant? How about regular frosting? Why does it have to be buttercream? Can it just be regular, like, I don't know, another frosting, buttercream covered in ganache? I don't think the ganache is gonna go well with our flavors, so I'm gonna say fondant. I know not everyone likes fondant. I like fondant. I like how it looks. I do like how it tastes. You know, it's got like a marshmallow flavor to it. Not everybody likes it, but you know what? It's our cake. It's our cake. Got it. Almost done. They scribbled that down in the binder. The cake that we cut, that was fondant. Fondant. Finally, what elements would you like me to include in the design and presentation of the cake? A double groom cake topper. Royal icing piping. I love royal icing. Meringue detailing. I love meringue. Edible pearls. Yeah, those are fine. They can be annoying to eat sometimes. Sugar-made decorations. Chocolate-made decorations. Edible paint. Fresh flowers. Ribbons around the tiers. I don't think it needs anything extra. How about a double groom cake topper? Let's do meringue detailing.